Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
So we had another domino in conference realignment. It had been a while, but Colorado is leaving the Pac-12 to go back to the Big 12. It's now official. It's going to happen in 2024. So just first question, what were your thoughts on the move?
I mean, I guess it's good for the nostalgic college football fans out there getting Colorado back in their old conference, even though the conference is much different when they were there. But I guess, compared to some of the other realignment moves, it somewhat geographically makes sense, and it's not a total head scratcher, especially since, you look at Colorado, they're capitalizing on the best time in the last few years because their on-field production has been kind of a dumpster fire, but they got that Dion excitement. And it also speaks to the fact that with the lack of the new Pac-12 media deal, the Buffs, they don't have an exit fee. It's not a good look for the Pac-12 when, one of their worst performing teams, is jumping ship at no cost, especially to a league, the Big 12, itself a year ago. They had just lost Texas and Oklahoma. They were on unsettled footing, but they've managed to kind of beat the Pac-12 to the punch with a new media deal and getting, some decent programs to join.
Yeah, it makes sense for Colorado, virtually from like every standpoint for them. I think the Big 12's TV deal is going to pay them about $32 million a year in a couple of years when that starts, which is going to be more than the Pac-12's. I know it hasn't been announced, but there's just no way.
Whoa! Breaking news from Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, it's facts, bro. How is it going to be more? The Pac-12, they can't even come to an agreement because there's just no way.
Either way, at worst, it's going to be similar.
Right. Yeah, at worst, and they're not going to be getting all as good at TV slots. They're just, it's not as good. So the AD was also saying, they'll get more exposure playing in a few different time zones now, and playing on ESPN and Fox more. He also said the athletes were going to travel less, which kind of goes what you were saying, Trey, like more geographical. But I mean, I'm also not entirely sure that that's totally true. I mean, you do have Central Florida in the Big 12. You do have Cincinnati, and you do have West Virginia. So those are rather far trips. But, I know Kansas is and, Oklahoma States are closer. But I don't think that's that big of a difference. But playing in 3 different time zones, more stable conference, more money. And I think that I might be able to recruit better. I feel like they have more success in Texas now with this, obviously playing more games there. So.
Yeah, there just wasn't the fact that their Pac-12 tenure has gone so horribly.
Yeah,
that might be more coincidence than anything. I know people like to, point to like, oh, well, if they would have been in the Big 12, things would be so much better. It's like, well,
they say that with Nebraska too.
Yeah, and it's just timing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's correlation is not necessarily causation, but either way, it's the fact that it was so bad. It's like there's not much keeping them. It's not like the fans are like, no, we got to stay in the Pac-12, right?
Yeah.
They don't have any warm fuzzy feelings about it, and so stability seems like the main thing, right? Yeah, it's just the Big 12 is stable because we'll get to that. But Ryan, what do you think? What is the Big 12's next move then?
Well, they can't be done. I mean, they're certainly looking to add more than just Colorado. So they'll be at 13 teams in 2024 at this point after they lose OU and Texas and then bring on Colorado. So 13's a interesting number. So I'd imagine they'd be looking to get to that 16 number relatively soon. I don't know if it's this offseason or next, but the other four corner schools just make way too much sense for the Big 12 not to go after hard. And of course, the Big 12 pretty much had conversations with practically every Pac-12 school. So the four corner schools, the other ones are Arizona State, and Utah. So I would think those 3 would get the Big 12 would want the most. And I think those schools would eventually go. It seems like Arizona's very
eventually
close,
it's kind of like it's kind of going to happen soon or not. I don't know. Or I guess it could happen down the road, but
it could. I do think those schools will end up in the Big 12 though.
You do? Okay. So that means Pac-12 just.
Yeah, I've said it months ago or whatever, that the Pac-12 essentially, I mean, they'll lose Oregon, Washington. They're going to lose those other 4 corner schools. Cal, Stanford is debatable where they'll go, but they're going to be a Mountain West essentially. They'll have the Oregon State and Washington State and then the Mountain West schools.
All right, some forecasting there. But getting back to the Big 12, yeah, I think they'll either go to 14 or 16. And yeah, you're right. Is those four corner schools. The one that's getting the most buzz, if it's not those, is UConn, who would likely not be. I think certainly would not be coming in at a full share of new. But yeah, the football. I mean, I've reading an article. They're like, well, now UConn possibly turning a corner. With Mora going 6-7. It's like you can't. It's like they would still be by far the worst football team in the Pac-12 or in the that too, but in the Pac-12. So the football, I guess it's better than if they went 2-10 again last year, but like they're still really bad. So I don't put too much stock into that aspect of it. But basketball, of course, is very good, and Yormark seems to value the basketball side. But yeah, UConn, maybe Memphis, SDSU, UNLV are the other options that have been thrown out there. So I don't know if they would go to 16 if it was, if they were having to just choose from that group. Maybe they would just go to 14, but we'll see.
Yeah, and there's still some dominoes to fall because we don't know the big kingpins right now left. People say are Oregon and Washington. So like, does the Big 12 just like do a full court press to get them now that they might be ticked off that they still don't have a media deal and schools like Colorado are bolting, or do Oregon and Washington go to the Big 10, or is there like, there's, I don't know. For the Big 12 though, they could probably sense blood in the water and still just go over and get almost the pick of the litter of the Pac-12 if they want. But it'll be interesting. There's still just more dominoes to fall, even more so than just those two conferences.
Yeah. So
ACC.
getting to the Pac-12. I mean, where do they go from here? They've got to get this. They try to keep the rest of the 9 together and get this freaking TV deal done that everyone's been talking about for so long is expected to be done. And hopefully they can for their sake, they can get a decent number that's at least close to the Big 12. I don't.
Yeah.
It would seem a surprise at this point if they could surpass the Big 12 in terms of revenue. But so now they're at 9 teams. So you'd think, okay, they're going to want to add somebody. SDSU's got that exit fee situation.
Yeah.
That's a stumbling block near term, but that's possible. SMU seems like a great, should definitely add SMU. SMU's investing in NIL. They've, would get you out into the different time zones. So I feel like that would be a good move for them. But right now it's just like Washington and Oregon are so kind of such the dominant programs there. Like the Big 12 is
who's
they're
the
stable.
Kingpin? Who's like
they're stable because they don't have an Oregon and Washington, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got a bunch of good schools, but no one that the Big 10 or the SEC would want. It's kind of like perfect. They're
underneath.
They're just underneath, and that's good. That's fine. They can be the third or fourth best conference. But Pac-12, it's all Washington, Oregon holds all the cards now. Like, why wouldn't they demand an increased share of revenue in this
exactly.
TV deal? Because I guess the Pac-12 is like, okay, where are you going to go if the Big 10 doesn't want you right now? Which apparently, at least as of the second, they don't.
Otherwise, they'd be there, right?
Yeah. But I guess they could go to the Big 12. I mean, I'm sure the Big 12 would try and make that happen. So I don't know, but
it's a tough situation if you're a Washington and Oregon AD and president and whatever. You're like, I don't know. It feels like it's a real thin line that you're trying to walk. Like, we want the Big 10. We also don't want. I don't know. It's so many moving parts to think about. It's crazy. Do you just stay where you're at or move on?
It's hard, but they also have, like Michael was saying, they have all the leverage with the rest of the Pac-12, like in terms of they should. I mean, but I get, and kind of talking about the Pac-12 though in general. I know there's a lot of Pac-12 fans out there that are just, they have to be thinking back to Larry Scott and his tenure. Like, might have ended up costing them, getting them into this position. It's a shame it is like this now, just because the Pac-12 might become a shadow of itself. It's just, I guess if I'm them, I'm either, of course, bowing down to Oregon and Washington's needs, but maybe try to create, Ryan, you kind of mentioned it, like a really good Mountain West by essentially bringing in a San Diego State, and just you're kind of able to just lock those 10 down somehow. But
and
it'll
just
be
pray
tough.
that Big Ten never comes for Oregon and Washington.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully get a good enough TV deal that makes it really close to the Big 12 so that Oregon and Washington wouldn't go for them either.
Yeah. We should be careful, and we're not. Like, we should be careful to like.
We should be careful, and we're not careful.
Sorry. We should be careful not to do what I'm about to say, and we're not doing this. To pour, what do you call it? What's the phrase I'm looking for? Pour dirt
Salt
on the
wound?
grave? That's not right.
Oh,
Buried. We should be careful not to bury the Pac-12 like we did, or people
With the
did.
Big 12,
We probably did with the Big 12 a couple years ago when OU and Texas announced they were leaving. It was like, oh my God, like that conference.
the two conferences switched. Big 12 looked like it was done.
Yeah.
Pac-12 looked like, oh yeah, they're solid out there in the West, you know.
Yeah,
But
that
that changed.
Klyavkov was the AD at that, or I'm sorry, the commissioner at that time. And so he had a chance to poach from the Big 12. Like Pac-12 missed their chance. Hindsight's 2020, but they could have taken they could have had their pick of the litter of the Big 12 at that time.
Yes.
Might not have kept USC and UCLA. They might have bolted for the Big 10 anyway, but
They'd be in a better position now.
They'd be much better positioned if they had TCU and Oklahoma State or, whoever. So
yeah.
Big 12 fans are, which I would say there's been a rivalry, right, between like Big 12 and Pac-12. It feels like throughout all this of who's going to get the better TV deal, who's going to poach from who. So I think probably Big 12 fans are happy, but as kind of a more neutral observer here, I don't really. It's just like, I mean, I guess I grew up on the West Coast, so I do like the Pac-12. Like, it just sucks to see the Pac-12.
I know.
Is happening.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of feels like, it's just like, because you want, just like it sucked to see the Big 12 lose OU in Texas, so it's, I don't know.
In all sports,
I like the
football,
regional part of
basketball, watching. Yeah, you do lose that regional element.
Yeah.
But I do know that there's still going to be great games on TV all the time. So it'll still be fun no matter what conference, UCLA is in or what conference Oregon's in. They'll still have those late games at home at night that we'll still be able to watch. But, yes.
But it's still losing something here. But anyway,
you are.
Thank you for checking out this episode of the College Football Bros. Let us know your thoughts below on what's to come in conference realignments, and we will see you next time.